or no belly full. Don't know how you're going to do that, Jacqueline. Belly full. Thank you so much for being with us. This is the last conversation that we're going to have this afternoon. And I'm really hoping that this day is just the start of the momentum, right, that we've got in terms of how do we actually make this real, and not just thinking about ABUELOS, right? I know there's so many things that are cooking, building, growing that is in the room with us right now. So I'm really hoping and longing for this to be some momentum for all of us. I'm actually really, really blessed to be here with my brother. I call him the Prince of Peckham, because also there wasn't a person that I met once upon a time. If you said Southwark, this man's name would come up. If you said Peckham, this man's name would come up. And it's been a pleasure just to be in your proximity over the last couple of years. And interestingly, because you just reminded me of Yinka Damol, who is a mutual friend. Some of us know Yinka in the room. I'm holding Yinka responsible because I had a dream of this space called ABUELOS in 2015. And in 2016, it kept staying on my mind. And I spoke to my friend Yinka, and I was like, this is a silly idea, and it's not really a thing. And Yinka is the person who said, no, it's a thing, let's go and make it happen. And I'm so glad this is being recorded, because Yinka, I'm holding you liable. I'm holding you responsible, but also I'm permanently grateful for that affirmation that this was possible, and that you connected me with people like Nicholas here who are also showing me that it's possible. And so I'm really grateful to be here with you, because this work for a really long time was speculative. It was something that we wanted to be a part of building. It was something that we were dreaming. It was something that we were visioning. And it's shifting to becoming really tangible. And we draw on precedents. There are so many precedents around us. But when we think about precedents, what you've built with PemPeople is one of those real anchor. I don't even want to call it an organization. It's more than that, but it's an anchor sort of orientation for us. And so inviting you here today to just come and reason with us. And I wonder if you can start this kind of conversation with, how do you define the work that you do at this time?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Nicholas Okwulu. I run two organizations. One of them's called PemPeople, and that stands for People Empowering People. And that's really about, and just to give you a bit of background around that before I talk about the second company, I live in Peckham, as Maria said, and it's quite a deprived area. It's in the top 20% most deprived wards. But it doesn't mean that we're incapable of doing anything. And I think that was the impression that we got from councils, from people who are funding projects. It's deprived, nothing can be done. Unfortunately, I also took on that mindset as well, that I lived in a poor estate and nothing can be done. But when I looked at the creativity, so for example, I used to run a bike project. It was because people wanted to cycle. They'd come to my house because, I used to cycle a lot, so they'd come and ask for a pump, and I'd give them a pump, and then they find out they got a puncture. And for me, it wasn't about doing it for them, it was about showing them how to do it. And that came about because I grew up in Nigeria, and when I went back to Nigeria at 12, there were no puncture kits. So I had to learn how to go into the forest to find a seed and actually take the resin from the seed to actually use as vulcanizing gum to actually fix my puncture. So, when I came back in, I was living on a deprived estate. I never lived on an estate before until I came back from Nigeria. And I realized the vast amount of talent that was local. So I set up a bike project. From the bike project, I got a contract to do another it was a small contract, but then I got a second contract in another borough. And it kind of started growing from there. But then I started thinking, I want to do this and do that. And also, I'm going to be honest, I'm very lazy. I got a very active mind, but my fingers are very lazy. Hence the reason PemPeople. People empowering people. I empower you, you go and do the job. In a way, it is true because, you know, I think part of also the other part of the missing story was that when I came back, I also worked in the pharmaceutical industry. So I used to work as a clinical sales manager, doing contracts to the NHS and to various hospitals. So I kind of learned how to talk to people in very senior figures from, you know, chief pharmacist, financial director, and it was always about, I want money, I want your money, I want your money. And I think from doing that, when I left that, that's when I actually started PemPeople. And what that enabled me to do was to go to the council and go, I want some money. And they will say, no. And my next question is, why not? And they'll say, I don't know. And they'll go and talk to their manager. And that's how it worked in the hospital. You go to the nurse, the matron, you say, can you buy my product? She says, no, you need to speak to the chief pharmacist. You go to the chief pharmacist, and it goes round. And I mean, what I'm telling you will kind of give you an understanding of how I've got to where I am now. So, you know, with that, you know, I just kept pushing and pushing, and I realized that we've got so many talented people, and it wasn't about me. It was about other people that lived on the estate. And also one thing that I learned about working in the pharmaceutical industry was that it was always, as much as you were spending money, it was also about saving money. So, you know, you spend money on this, you remedy that situation. And for me, coming into the community sector was about understanding that there's a problem in our community and how do we address it. It's not about people who live outside the area coming and address it, it's about people who live locally. And I think I'm quite stubborn, so it was almost like saying I'm saying stubborn as opposed to focused. I don't think I'm focused, I just think that if I want something, I'm just stubborn and I'm going to get there. So I think, you know, just from working with different people, you know, even when I set up my bike project, which I set up in another borough, you know, I can fix bikes. But what I did, I went into a community that I used to live in. I knew it pretty well, and I started asking other people, do you know anybody that wants to fix bikes? 7 people turned up. And those 7 people that turned up, what I then did, because I think looking at the community landscape, everybody wants to run a bike project. Everybody wants to say, yo, guess what, I got my bike fixed. But nobody really talks about the legacy. And if you notice, when I'm always talking, it's not about today, it's not about tomorrow, it's about 10 years, 15 years from now, where are we going to be? So, you know, when the 8 people turned up, I got them accredited with the City and Guilds. And even my borough hasn't even done that till today. And I can tell you this, I use it very well. I always tell the council, oh, I trained 8 people. And they're City and Guilds accredited people, because nobody in the council's ever been able to challenge me on that. And my argument is, with the little money that I've got and the massive budget you got, why can't you do it? So, you know, you guys, sometimes it's about thinking outside the box. So, I'm going to say this, mistakenly, I was asked to put in a bid for the BMX track. I don't know if anybody knows the BMX track in Burgess Park, London. I was asked to put in a bid no, I wasn't asked. A guy called CK Flash was asked to put in a bid for it, and he put a bid and said, since you run a small bike project, can you support us? And I said, yes. Unknowingly, I ended up with the contract. So again, you know, lucky enough, I got that. We worked with people, we did more stuff. And I thought, oh, I'm beginning to enjoy this. But as much as I like cycling wasn't really my big thing. And to be honest, I think even till today, I still don't know what my big thing is, apart from bringing people together and watching them achieve what they can do. Or, you know, just opening the doors in terms of where they can go. So I talk a lot for a lot of people in terms of this person can do this. So even, and I'll give you an example, even yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I had somebody come in, and he actually runs a business, printing T-shirts. I mean, he does actually he did this one for me as well. So he, you know, but he's a private organization. I run a community organization and a private organization, and I decided to help him to actually do the grant. And when I say help him, well, I didn't help him. I sat next to him. while he was doing his expression of interest. But the question is, sometimes it's not about the doing, it's about the supporting. And that's what we are there for. It's not about, and I actually fall out with people because I think people expect me to do stuff for them. Nah, not Nicholas. You're going to do it by yourself, and you're going to learn by yourself. I will assist you where you need help, but I'm not just going to give it to you, because my thing is, if I'm not there next time, you're not going to be able to do it. And I need you to understand it. And, just going back to this story, he sat there and he was nervous, talking to the moderator about applying for this grant. And I just sat there, like, yeah, go on. If you sink, you sink. If you swim, you swim. That's my philosophy. But he got through it. And, I did interject in the interview every now and again to say, look, we're going to help him to do this, this, and this. And, by the time we finished the interview, I called him in the evening. I said, how do you think it went? He went, you know what, Nicholas, I'm really glad you did it that way, because now I can go to other interviews and I can do it myself and I can feel a bit more confident than what I did. Because I think we need to understand that sometimes people need guidance. But, that's just an example of what we've been doing. And over the years, what we've been doing is supporting people to do stuff, to, do projects. A couple of years ago, I decided that access to the design festival in Southwark wasn't really for everybody. And I wanted to, upset the equilibrium like I do. And I was invited to decide if I wanted to be part of it, which I said yes. And I think for me, what was really great about, becoming a co-founder for a design district in Southwark is seeing the vast amount of talents and then just letting them run wild. And we did it. And guess what? We had 100 artists in one big massive space, curated by 21, 22-year-olds who've never done anything like that. And I think that's what I've just always been doing, just been supporting people, getting people to do stuff. And I think when it came to time for us to put up the building, it became a lot easier because people understood what we did. It wasn't about, oh, Nicholas wants to do this and he's going to do it. It was about how do we get people in the local community. And I think what's also important, and going back to my previous job as a medical sales rep or a clinical sales rep, was that I always had to read policies. I hate reading, but if you give me a policy, I like to read it. And I'm like, so I think I
have never heard someone say that before. I hate reading, but I love reading policy.
Yeah, listen,
one of a kind.
I'm actually been buying books for the last couple of years that I want to read when I retire, because I don't like reading them now. And I've got a funny feeling I'm going to start reading it when I'm retired and no one wants to talk to me anymore. But, and going back, I think and I think I was saying to Julian earlier when I looked at the booklet that you guys are giving out. And it's funny because one of the things that I'm telling local people at the moment is that everything's about climate change, and that we need to start understanding it. And even if you don't want to put it in your project, even if you want to open a can of baked beans, you've got to look at the impact that it has on the environment. And it's about how do we get local people to start understanding that? How do we get them to start being involved? So, as Amira said, we've actually put up a building. And it's really about getting people to do the stuff in there. I'm a bit tired because we've just had some undergraduates who have just finished doing their first show, which has been really, really brilliant because, someone in the community think,